starting with the claims he made that poor students cannot afford to earn their bachelor degrees in higher education environments, such as college. Um, this claim actually ignores the fact that many students also don't apply for pre-existing government financial aid that's already out there, which is already open to students via the FAFSA, which Nancy and probably both used to get our tuition for this year. But by utilizing things like the FAFSA, students who may assume they can't afford college because they're part of the lower uh, they're of a lower economic class, would actually find that they are eligible for this government financial aid that's already out there. So the problem isn't so much that the government doesn't spend enough money on federally funding colleges, it's just that students don't apply for this money that's already out there for them. So we don't need to increase the amount of money for encouraging more students to go out there and apply for the tuition, all the tuition systems that's already out there. Moving on to her second point, where she talks about how more federal funds in higher education would lead to more entrepreneurship for college students. This actually assumes a generalization that all college graduates are going to go on and start their own businesses post-graduation. In reality, though, many graduates actually go on to successful, high-paying careers where they're working for an employer. They're not starting their own businesses. We see this in the case of medical students going to work for hospitals. We see it in law students going to work for law firms. We see it in journalists going to work for news outlets. So, just because college students don't go on to start their own businesses isn't necessarily a bad thing if they can still achieve good, high-paying jobs for themselves, which is still a unique economic benefit. Finally, your argument about the benefits in the housing market and starting families isn't entirely valid. Even though we definitely see that more and more young college-age people are marrying later in life, which is what she pointed out. The reason for this is actually because more and more young women today are choosing to go to college and pursue professional careers as compared to women in the past few decades. In other words, it isn't that college students aren't are ready for it's just that more and more young women, especially, are deciding to be more independent in um, pursuing college education and just being overall more independent young women. And so this is necessarily a harm that we're seeing because the government doesn't fund education on the federal level to the extent that she's advocating for.
So I want to start off by talking about the scholarships and how you say that people aren't actually using them. But college is expensive and it could be up to 40, 50,000 a year. If you're getting one scholarship from the government, even if it's 10, 12,000, that's not going to be enough if you're in the lower income. Like you're still going to be struggling to get by and to pay back your debt for a very long time, which is where the 2/3 of total tuition would actually cut it and at an extreme amount and make it affordable and make it plausible. These scholarships aren't doing enough, which is why we're still seeing this problem. And then about the second, how they're going to jobs. Well, the problem is that they're going to jobs that pay the highest, not necessarily what fits their major or what they want to do. They're like, if they want to work for a nonprofit, they might not be able to afford to do that because they have all this student loans that they have to pay back. So it's not going to work.
Alright, so I would like to propose a collective party platform that this House believes we should abolish mandatory minimums. So for any of you who don't know what mandatory minimums are, if any of you have watched Orange is the New Black, you know that Piper Chapman is locked up on a drug crime, which has a mandatory minimum locking up for more time than she should probably be in there. So we should abolish mandatory minimum for a few key reasons today. First of all, is that this causes a huge cost to the taxpayer. The Federal Register reports that it costs approximately $29,000 a year to keep someone incarcerated, while the University of Wisconsin estimated that 1 in 4 incarcerated are in on a drug offense. So if we take, that makes about 555,000 people in drug crimes, which accounts for about $16 billion every year. And considering I can barely afford to buy ramen noodles, I really don't want to be spending $16 billion a year on this. Furthermore, it increases the mass incarceration in the United States. The incarceration rate currently is 707 citizens for every 100,000 free people. And overall, incarcerated population in the United States is approximately the size of the city of Houston. Therefore, this is creating mass, and the mandatory minimums are throwing more people in prison. These are people who are not violent, who have not actually hurt people, but are merely in for a drug crime. So, because of this, we're wrongly incarcerating people, which creates harsh conditions in prison itself. Justice Anthony Kennedy actually stated in a recent court case that without an end to mass overcrowding in prisons, which is actually caused by mandatory minimums, that many poor people will die or needlessly suffer. So because of that, we cannot continue to do this. And finally, that they do not, mandatory minimums actually do not increase safety. Rhode Island in 2009 got rid of mandatory minimums statewide, and they actually saw a decrease in crime. Now, this same thing happened when 17 states nationwide got rid of their mandatory minimums, and again saw a decrease in crime. So, because this is not keeping us safe, and because it costs so much money, and because of the fact that it incarcerates so many people needlessly, we must abolish mandatory minimums.
All right, so I'm going to levy with you here. We just simply can't pass a bill like this for two basic reasons. One, the government would need to make a provision. That provision would draw an arbitrary government line between what drugs we deem okay and what drugs that we don't deem okay. So in the same sense, we could keep the line where it is today, where like marijuana is still considered a minor drug possession, or we could draw the line even further. If we drew that line even further, what we would see is desensitization of drugs. So that means today how youths might view marijuana for being like an okay drug, we'd be viewing heroin as an okay drug. What you're seeing here is that this would just end into a cyclical process to which we would be just devaluing all these drugs until it's finally just common culture to do drugs. What else that we're going to see here is in order to do this, we're going to have to expand departments to account for like this new investigation into who's actually should be sentenced to crime or not. So what we're seeing here, so we're not actually saving that much money because we need to expand an entire department to actually account for all of these separate investigations into who should actually be going to prison and who shouldn't at this point. So at this point, I'd like to put forward a different plan, which isn't we shouldn't be asking ourselves like who are we sending to prison, but what instead are we doing inside of our prison systems? So under the current status quo of the amount of money that we're spending, we could instead be changing what like curriculum we put into and rehabilitating prisoners to prepare them for re-entry into society rather than just releasing these people after committing these minor crimes. These people knew the punishment after committing these minor crimes. What we should be doing inside the prison is educating them on why they can't do those behaviors anymore and just getting them ready to fulfill like a proper citizen's role in society, which actually is like having a job and paying with things like correctly instead of like leading to a higher crime rate. So for that, I can like not see us accepting this resolution at all. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Will, for that quick rebuttal. So I'm just going to kind of go through a little bit of what he said here. First of all, he said that this would basically just make doing drugs acceptable and okay. But that's not at all what we're advocating for. As I stated before, it's actually reduced crime, and that's not reducing, or that's not, like, people can still get in trouble for doing drugs. It's just taking away the mandatory minimum sentencing limit, which puts people in there for longer. So essentially what we're doing is just making it so people don't have to go to jail for as long a time, but they're still punished, still rehabilitated. Secondly, he talked about how we need to expand departments, and this is just completely incorrect because whatever we do to expand departments is still not going to offset that $16 billion. Finally, all we're doing is getting rid of mandatory minimums. But the fact of the matter is, these prisoners cannot be rehabilitated like Will wants them to, an environment that is violent, which stems from overcrowding. So because we cannot actually rehabilitate prisoners in the current prison environment, this makes that point completely irrelevant. So for these reasons, we have to focus on abolishing mandatory minimums. I would also like to propose another plank to this party's platform. And that is that this party advocates for an improved 2016 DREAM Act which would help immigrant children with federal assistance for college and provide a pathway to citizenship. And we should do this for two main reasons. First of all, because providing financial assistance for immigrant children to attend college has in the past really created an environment where immigrants turn away from crime and turn away from University found that when in-state tuition and other incentives are granted to immigrant children, they are twice as likely to attend college, which and also increases the overall college enrollment rate. So because of this, this causes kind of a chain reaction. Because of this, these people experience a higher quality of life, they get less trouble with the law, and they contribute to the economy more than they would previously. Furthermore, this also helps universities because universities have more enrollment, they can invest more into research, they can invest more into bettering their college and education system. So this is kind of a win-win situation for everyone. It's helping the immigrants and it's helping universities. It's really helping move everyone forward. Secondly, we need to do this because immigrants have, in the past, really helped our economy. According to news reports argue that 40% of Fortune 500 businesses were actually started by immigrants. This proves that they are very hardworking people and we really need them in our economy. The Economic Policy Institute finds that 14.7% of economic output is from immigrants, which produces $743 billion every year. So as you can see that by allowing more immigrants into our community, we are furthering our educational goals, we are furthering our research and technology, and we are really helping to build our economy. So for these reasons, we must pass this act.
So like Spencer said, being an innovator, part of that is having to advocate against something you don't agree with, so let's get this started. So, first, what Bobby is saying is that we're basically creating an environment with less crime. How this is basically like a win-win situation. But what she doesn't address is who is going to be paying for this. So while it might be a win-win situation for some groups, it's going to be a loss for the taxpayers. Taxpayers who are legal citizens within the United States will have to pay for through taxes and stuff like that. They will have to pay for the funding of these scholarships and things like that. And because specifically the bill says it doesn't look to the immigration status of the parents of these children, we won't be having to give this money to illegal immigrants. So that means that these people who have already broken the law to come into the country are now going to get money and funding from taxpayers who are here legally. Also, we can see that she says that it's going to help the economy if more immigrants are within this. So what we have to see is that what would actually be more beneficial is having these having these immigrants as actual citizens within the United States. Then they can pay income taxes and generate more taxes for the government so we can improve these programs that are for funding. So once we do stuff like that, we will have this benefit that Bobby advocates for, but we will have it in a better way. So basically what you have to see is that this improved DREAM Act is just a beat around the bush method of dealing with the immigration issues we have today. So once we create an easier immigration path for people to follow, that is when we're going to see the benefits occur from this.
Props to you for arguing against this if you are. Yeah, props. Alright, so just kind of going through what she said real quick. I did say this was a win-win situation because we are investing in people and we're investing in our economy. So yes, we are spending a little bit more money here, but because of that, we're seeing a lot of positive benefits. So you can see with this cost-benefit analysis that actually we're really benefiting more. And these people are coming because their home countries are so impoverished and so poor that they really don't have a chance for life before. So they're coming for our American dream, and they're coming so they can live that. And they're hard workers, as I illustrated in my first 3 points. And Sarah advocated for making them citizens because if they're citizens, then we have all these great benefits from that. Well, actually, this 2016 DREAM Act advocates for providing a pathway to citizenship. So this actually completely negates that point because that's what we're trying to do with this act. We're trying to provide a pathway to citizenship, and we're trying to make these people citizens. We're trying to give them access to the American dream and also improve our economy.
Alright, I would also like to add a plank to our platform kind of building right here. So I say that this party should advocate to eliminate the electoral college system and replace it with a direct national election for the presidency. Now, for 3 main reasons why the electoral system that we have currently is deeply flawed. First, the electoral system weighs votes differently from state to state. For my first point, I looked at fairvote.org, which states that, quote, for instance, each individual in Wyoming counts nearly 4 times as much in the electoral college system as each individual vote in Texas. This is because Wyoming has 3 electoral votes and Texas has 32 electoral votes. The difference between these two states is the largest in the electoral college, end quote. This example shows how the electoral college system creates an unfair political landscape, which leads to my second point, that the electoral system establishes safe states where candidates do not bother to campaign at all. Since all but 2 states have what we call a winner-take-all system, where a candidate wins the electoral votes of the whole state if they win the majority of that state's support, candidates know ahead of time which states will support them and which states that won't. As a result, states without a doubt political bias, such as Iowa and Ohio, receive greater attention from candidates in other states, such as California and Texas. This then leads to some voters having a more informed idea of a particular candidate when voters from other states don't have that informed opinion. And this also will potentially lead to a decrease in overall voter turnout in these states. Third and finally, the electoral college system allows for a candidate to win the presidency without the popular vote of the American people. Again, I looked at fairvote.org, which states, quote, as the 2000 election demonstrated, it is possible for a president to be elected without winning the popular vote. This stands as yet another example of why we should abolish the electoral college system for a direct national election for the presidency. Under such a system, the 3 problems I addressed would simply not exist. It would have a fair, more legitimate election process. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. As much as I would love to come up here and talk about more why fair pay is wonderful, I'm instead going to give some really sexy reasons for why the Electoral College should be continued. This party should continue to support the use of the Electoral College. That doesn't mean we have to always support the Electoral College status quo moving forward. One of the greatest strengths of the Electoral College is that it is a system already in place that can change and adapt as necessary when the country evolves, which has happened several times. Abolishing the Electoral College outright is a revolutionary step that an entire national presidential election administration's governance would be affected by. Thus, it would only be warranted to abolish the Electoral College, and doing so brings truly significant gains to our democracy. It is true that the Electoral College effectively weighs votes differently depending on the voter's state, and that certain states essentially become safe states. However, these are not necessarily bad things, nor are they unique to a world with the Electoral College. For one, as long as we still govern and divide voters by states as categorized units, some states will always seem safer than others. Candidates will still only have a limited amount of resources to campaign with, and it would still be a rational choice for them to campaign more in some states than in others. Fortunately, modern media also mitigate these effects. It is unlikely that any area will ever receive no candidate education. On the other hand, the existence of the Electoral College and its regional distribution of electoral votes means that no one geographic region of the country, through extremely strong support of a candidate, can unduly influence the outcome of an election, reducing divisive sectional extremism. Instead, it encourages strong national coalitions, which are important for democracy. It is also true that the Electoral College allows for a president to be elected without the popular vote. However, this party should look to the constitutional framework's original intent of creating a federal system that balanced valuing the population of the states with valuing each state as an actor. We see this balance in the creation of both the House and the Senate. Individual voters also do still get to vote and express a preference, and under no system would a single vote ever tip an election over the edge one way or the other. Other positive reasons for keeping the Electoral College exist. For one, it keeps control of elections decentralized and out of the control of presidential appointees, especially important in case of potential recounts. It also helps keep elections less messy by preventing runoff elections from happening, often in the case of no candidate receiving a majority in the popular vote, as generally one candidate still receives a majority of electoral votes. Thank you.
I'm just going to respond by adding good reasons why we should actually abolish the electoral college system. So she mentioned that in the event of like a draw, pretty much the ultimate decision of who should win the candidacy refers back to Congress, specifically the House of Representatives. So what we see that if a situation occurred in which this happened, the House of Representatives would essentially be in charge of deciding who won the election. So this could be a problem if the House of Representatives is controlled by a majority of Republicans or conversely by the majority of Democrats. So it could potentially lead to a situation in which the winner of the presidency is decided based on political bias, not on the attitudes of the American people, what the American people won as president. Furthermore, she also conceded the fact that the electoral college system allows for an instance where the person who won the popular vote of the country would end up being the president. So, okay, so imagine that Bernie Sanders won the popular vote for the upcoming election in 2016. Imagine if Donald Trump won the majority of the electoral college votes in America. Are we going to elect Donald Trump as president just because he won the majority of the electoral college votes? Are we going to do this, America?
America. America. Trying to get great people to drink in the beer that are America on the cup.
I would just first ask the members of the Simpson College debate team to come up here so I can quickly introduce you. Thank you to the audience, first of all, for putting up with a very unrehearsed debate that was very unnatural for these students. I'm, like I said, one of the luckiest people in the room because I get to coach all of these young people. And you may be surprised to know this, most of them are first-year students. So, wave at the audience when I announce you. So Sydney Samples, first-year student. Randy Paulson, first-year student. Emily Schwickerath, first-year student. Sarah Baker, first-year student. Bonnie Fogel, first-year student. My very, very dear friend, Polly Safford, senior. Also a dear friend, Tegan Jarkow, junior. And we've got Will Seiler. He's a sophomore, also a great friend. Thank you for giving us your evening, Simpson College students.
Simpson College is located in the suburb
right,
of
let's
Indianola.
Give the Simpson College debate team one more big which of our little drink terms was mentioned the least?
Reform.
So the reform people are thirsty, is that right? We have to reform that right now because we don't want anybody to be dry. That would be a reform strategy or a reform strategy. So, okay, so let's have a little reality check here. If we were really at a Republican caucus, you would have heard possibly representatives of the candidates speak for a maximum of 2 or 3 minutes before the actual straw poll vote. On your ballot is what we would consider to be the candidates for this caucus, which are the issues that you just heard about. Just to review, because you may not be able to tell by looking at the list. DREAM Act, judicial sentencing reform, abolishing Common Core. The argument was about abolishing Common Core. Federal funding for college student tuition, increasing infrastructure funding for public transportation, doing away with the Electoral College. The religious freedom issue was throwing Kim Davis in the slammer. Entitlement reform was your SNAP argument, your supplemental nutrition assistance argument. We had increasing renewable energy by the year 2030, reducing nitrates in farming. And then there was a write-in issue, the fair pay for everyone issue. So many of you probably will be voting for that. So you can write that in on the line here at the bottom of the ballot, or you can write in any other issue you want. Just please keep it brief. 1 or 2 words would be enough. And so what I would like everybody to do is vote now. We will have a volunteer walking around with our official ballot box. Put your ballot in the box as soon as you are done voting. And you might also use this time to run out and get another beer. And then we're going to start the platform debate. So take your time right now. The platform debate will add
Caitlin, do you know Jessica?
Jessica
Ireland, this is Caitlin.
Hi, nice to meet you.
She met the Occupy.
Oh, cool.
And then she got bombed. Well, she's been too busy to do that, but
Are you still serving at George?
Well, we have decided to relocate to, we did it as part of the shelter. Yeah, you should go. I'm as far right as I can get with this chair. I'm hitting the wall. But we did it in front of the shelter, and that was very good because people were hanging out there, and there were probably about 12, 15 people who were
Waiting for the vote.
so I think that might be a good thing to do it in front of the shelter.
Cool. Yeah, I saw that. I've been painting my house and
Well, that's, like I said, you've been busy, but
and I have somebody staying in my house.
that didn't work. Oh well. Yep. I chicken scratched something on there and threw it in the box.
I'm not like trying to make you choose something that I don't want.
And there's a pen there. If it doesn't work, I pulled out my pen. Maybe I'll put it down there anyway.
Anybody still voting?
Yeah, there's still people voting over here. Yeah, the boxes roaming around the room. If that blue one doesn't work, my pen is there, so. The box is over there.
Never understood that.
I don't know where she gets this stuff.
Like a Bernie Sanders picture?
Sure.
I'm only 49. Still a young
There
couple.
you go.
There you are. All in mine.
I just don't tell people I'm home most of the time.
Did you guys like a Bernie Sanders sticker?
Thank you.
I even have pens if you'd like.
They're in the bottom.
How about you?
I got this one.
Okay.
Do you know when Bernie will be in Des Moines next?
Saturday, I believe, for the Jefferson Jackson. I know we'll be here for sure for that. But.
Okay, well, I'm going to be outside streaming because I anticipate some kind of a protest. So I'll be outside the building.
Do we have to wait? Everyone else can vote.
I was just picking up my pen that I put down there. Apparently some people have trouble with this one.
Anybody still voting here? Last call for votes. We're going to take the box and start counting. If this were an actual caucus, representatives from and other people who wanted to observe could observe the counting process. So it's
I think there were drinks and stuff that they put on.
Okay, and if you wouldn't mind, we're going to continue here. So if you could take your seats, please. Okay, let's either take your seats or take your conversation outside so that we can continue here. Now, true to life, after the vote, a lot of people leave the caucuses, honestly. That is true to life. Because a lot of times people just come for the vote. But there are two other parts of the caucus that are really, really important if you care about what happens to your community and if you care about what happens to the issues that you want to advance. So, the thing that happens after the vote for candidates is there is an election for delegates. And at caucus this precinct has an election for delegates to go on to the county convention. At the county conventions, people elect delegates to go on to the district convention, and then the state convention, and then finally the national convention. So that is a big, really important part of the process, getting your delegates, getting the right delegates in place to make sure that your choice goes on through the process to the national convention. We're not doing that tonight, folks. So you don't have to, prepare your stump speech to be a delegate. What we are going to do is carry on the platform debate that we just had. If we were debating a platform at a caucus, the first thing I would do, because most of the time you have a list of proposed planks already, is just propose to move all the issues on the platform. All the proposed issues forward to the county convention. Okay. So that's what I would do if I were running this caucus. I would say I move to have all of the platform issues that have been proposed tonight move on to the county convention. Is there a second? Second. All right, we've got a motion and a second to move all of these platform planks on to the county convention. Any discussion? So over to the floor. Anybody have an objection to that? Anybody? Yes, Ed Fallon.
Not an objection, just to point out it denigrates the value of each individual vision.
Come up to this microphone and just make it very brief.
I would just say that it denigrates the importance of each of those issues to the people who raise them, because then you're just kind of throwing it all over your club. I understand the expediency of that, so.
Yes, and usually what will happen at a caucus is the people who feel really important about those issues will move to separate them. And that happens a lot. And so, a lot of times what we will hear is, let's move to separate these, because people don't agree with every single plan. Right? You might want to separate out some of these issues. All right. So what we would do is probably say, okay, for every platform plank that's been proposed, if there's a motion and a second, we would vote on those individually. Okay. We don't have to go through that tonight. We've already voted on these issues. So what I'm going to do is open the floor for any other issues. Are there any other issues besides these platform issues that have been discussed that anybody wants to propose to the platform? Ed.
Don't break it.
Safety first.
I would just propose that we prioritize climate change as a crisis that warrants immediate and emergency full-scale response.
Okay. Yeah.
No renewable energy is part of that conversation, but it's only a part of it.
Okay, a motion to prioritize climate change as a crisis that needs immediate response. Is there a second?
May I have a second?
There is a second. Any discussion? Keep it very, very brief. Anybody want to say anything in opposition to that platform plan? Anybody? Okay, let's just do a voice vote. Everybody who's in favor of that platform plan say aye. Wait. Everybody opposed will say no. All right, first let's hear the ayes. Aye. Anybody opposed?
No.
Okay.
One guy
By
behind me
virtue of voice
said
vote,
no.
that platform plan gets adopted. It will be moved to the county's convention. Does anybody else have a platform plan that they want to propose? Yes, ma'am. You for it or against it? Okay, there's a proposal of platform plank against police brutality. Is there a second? Second. There's a second. Anybody have any discussion?
No.
All right, a simple voice vote again. All those in favor of a platform plank against police brutality say aye. Aye. And anybody against that say no. Okay, that vote's unanimous. Goes on to the county convention. All right, anybody else have a proposal? Yes, ma'am. Equal pay for equal work, which is I think on our list, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and vote on it anyway, because I think it'll pass. Is there a second? Okay. Any discussion? Anybody want to speak against that motion? No, because you value your lives. So, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay. So that one
The guy
has also
behind
been
me,
adopted.
same one again.
All right. How are we
I think
doing?
he's doing that
Yeah.
just for the heck of it.
Say again. Paid family leave. Is there a second?
Second.
Paid family leave. Second. Okay. Anybody want to speak on that issue? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay. Again, that one has been adopted. I have to tell you that most platform discussions do not go this quickly. there's usually more debate that is involved. But you guys know your mind, so you don't need all that debate, right? Automatic voter registration. Okay, so everybody who turns 18 gets.
I don't know how much it weighs.
Oh, at age 16? Okay, if you're 18 or older, you automatically get registered to vote. Is there a second? Second. All right. Anybody want to speak against that one?
I will for the sake of argument.
Okay.
I think the cost of automatic voter registration is too great. Right now, I feel voting should be held for those people who actually pay attention and are informed and allow themselves to be informed. I think automatic voter registration is disincentivizing for the rest of us. I hope you got something back because I want to be.
Okay, any rebuttal? Yes.
Sure. My rebuttal is, there are plenty of young people who, don't pay attention till, maybe, or actually, probably most American public doesn't pay attention as close as we do in Iowa until, maybe 2 months before the election, and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to vote. So then they're, and then, maybe they're busy and don't get themselves registered to vote, and a lot of states have deadlines. You gotta be registered 30 days before the election.
Okay, time's up, but let's, is there more discussion? Yes.
No, I think we're in danger of becoming a groupthink thing. I mean, every single response has been one way or the other. It's been complete. I mean, people should discuss things. Even though I agree with, it should probably be automatic, but, still, I'd say people should discuss things.
Okay, and now?
I'd like to expand on this a little more. I'd like us to go the way of Australia, which has mandatory voting for all citizens. You can do a vote of no confidence, but this means that if you must vote for your party.
Okay. The motion on the table, though, is for automatic voter registration. You can propose an amendment to that plan if you you'd like, or you can propose a separate.
That would be my amendment. I really think that's where I.
Okay, is there a second for your amendment?
Second.
All right, let's vote on the amendment first. Mandatory voting. Everybody say aye.
Aye.
Wait, well, only if you agree.
If you're in favor, say aye. Mandatory voting. If you're against it, say no.
No.
Okay, the amendment fails. Back on the original platform plan, which is automatic voter registration. Any more discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see.
Signing voter registration to a driver's license discriminates against pedestrians and bikers.
That's right. Okay.
He said voter automatic.
Yes.
He's saying that it could discriminate against those who do not have an ID or driver's license of any kind.
If you can own a gun without any education, without any prior anything, then certainly she should be able to vote without any education in addition to.
All right. Are we ready for the question? All those in favor of automatic voter registration say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No. If you took a nose
Pretty
in.
close, but I think that the chair says that the ayes have it. All right. And I think we have winners now on our issues. Come on up, Brian Smith, Pocket Secretary Extraordinaire. Okay. Yeah, so we're gonna go. Are you gonna do the posters handling? We're gonna do this in a very dramatic fashion. Okay. So Brian, why don't you go ahead and announce? We're gonna start from the ones that got the least vote up to the winner.
Alright, these votes, we're gonna start with a couple that were write-ins. Okay, so getting one vote was mandatory preschool.
Yeah.
One vote was foreign policy. One vote for Citizens United.
Woo! Overturning it, I hope.
Campaign finance reform. Don't reform. I think that's the thing you're aspiring for, right? One vote for increasing the federal minimum wage. One vote for reforming corporate entitlement and its influence. Now on to the things that are on the board. Common Core only got one vote. Also remove infrastructure funding for public transportation. It only got one vote. We might need a taller person.
You're going to take that tree back off.
I don't know. Only getting 2 votes, abolishing the electoral college.
They're taking the posters down over there that were for the typed issues on the ballot, and that's each one is red. They're pulling them off the wall.
Getting 4 votes and being removed is the religious freedom. Kim Davis, I guess, is free of the slammer.
She's been free for a while.
Also getting 4 votes was federal funding for college tuition.
Really?
And also with 4 votes was the DREAM Act.
I called dibs on the sign. Use your imagination.
Okay, getting 5 votes was judicial sentencing reform.
Mine.
Entitlement reform also only got 5 votes.
And that
7 votes, and being the last one that we officially had on the list being removed is renewable energy. Which means that a landslide victory of 47 votes was equal pay.
Stunning victory would be added to the results of all of the other precincts in Iowa. They would be announced from the caucus center, which is going to be at Capitol Square on February 1st, after the caucuses. And and so then, of course, the winning candidates would go on to New Hampshire. But for the Give a Damn series, the winning issue, fair pay, is actually going to be part of the discussion on November 5th, which is not a debate, but a discussion between Jeff Kaufman, Republican Party of Iowa chair, and Andy McGuire, who is the chair of the Iowa Democratic Party. So we hope you all come back. Thank you again to the Moines Social Club, and also to the Simpson debate team. Thank all of you for being here, and please participate, register to vote, and caucus on February 1st. Thank you.
Well, yeah, the general for the handle stuff. Yeah, and ballot measures and that sort of thing.
Yeah, Lady Go. Did she get out already?
Oh, she slipped out when you weren't looking. Did you see that meme on Facebook? That if you see the Bernie machine, you take a picture of it, post it, and then the guy who owns that car will donate a certain amount to the campaign? I've seen that, but have you seen the car yet?
I haven't. I gave half of it away to start.
Oh.
It's a Bernie sticker.
That is going to do it for tonight.
Yeah, done. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Learn how to drink slowly with Leslie Mars.
One of my fellow activists here, she's also a flute musician, a teacher at Drake, so she's having a little fun with her beer. So enjoy that vicariously through her. But that will do it for tonight. And there'll be more things to come in the future, so thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the stream.